I accidentally became my grandpa's caker by faking I knew how to cook his favorite dishes. What started as a desperate lie became a journey that healed 3 generations of family wounds. My mother asked me to check on my grandfather twice a week to ensure he was eating, as his fridge had been empty. At 23, I was surviving on ermina and frozen pizza, while my grandfather was a retired chef who once owned 2 restaurants. We barely knew each other due to a decades-old fight between him and my father that severed our relationship when I was 7. Now, with my father overseas and my mother overwhelmed with her own parents' health issues, I'd become the designated grandson to check on our estranged patriarch. On my first visit, I found Arch Joe sitting in his immaculate kitchen staring at nothing. He refused to touch the pre-made meals my mother had sent. As I turned to leave, I noticed a handwritten recipe card for Maria's pasta e fagioli in my grandmother's handwriting. When I asked if it was his favorite, something flickered in his eyes as he explained my grandmother had made it every Sunday. On impulse, I offered to make it for him, immediately regretting my words when he asked skeptically if I cooked Italian. My first attempt was a disaster, misreading simmer as boil, adding too much salt and nearly setting off his smoke alarm. Yet Tisa's Joe ate it anyway, saying it was not quite like hers but close. We both knew it wasn't close at all, but something in his face told me to try again. I returned with better research and ingredients. By the 3rd attempt, the soup was actually good. He has started offering small corrections and I began taking notes when he wasn't looking. Cooking became our language. Each dish unlocked another story. Burnt the carbonara that won my grandmother's heart. The rigatoni created when my father was born. The Christmas Tyrone that was our family tradition before the fight. 3 months in, he asked why my father never taught me to cook. When I admitted my father had stopped cooking Italian food after their fight, saying it reminded him too much of home, Hayes revealed that my father had been a natural in the kitchen, even better than himself. I called my dad in Singapore that night to share this revelation. His bitter laugh confirmed he'd never heard such praise from his father before. 6 months into our cooking lessons, I suggested recording some recipes on video for posterity. What I didn't tell Hasai was that I sent each video to my father, who had started cooking again, following along from overseas and texting questions I would relay during our next sessions. When Dad's assignment ended, I orchestrated their reunion in Hasso's kitchen, deliberately making small mistakes in the pasta e fagioli that I knew they'd both notice. They stood awkwardly until Lias tasted my soup and frowned. Dad instinctively reached for more rosemary pert, his mother's signature addition that wasn't in the written recipe, as they simultaneously remarked that she always added extra. I quietly slipped out while they began correcting my technique, their hands moving in identical patterns inherited from the woman they'd both loved and lost. Today, Hearst Joe lives with my parents. Dad converted the garage into a teaching kitchen where they host weekend cooking classes. Sometimes the meals that heal us most aren't the ones we eat, but the ones we prepare together, even when we start with nothing but a desperate lie and a faded recipe card.